The music inside Redwood Bar stopped so fast, it felt like someone had pulled the plug from life itself. Hands where I can see them. Officer Brian Cooper's voice ripped through the air. Every head turned. Phones came out. The Friday night laughter died. Grace Miller froze with her drink halfway to her lips. Her twin sister, Chloe, sat across the table, eyes locked on hers. They didn't move, didn't speak. 3 months of undercover work could fall apart in seconds. Cooper walked straight toward them, his boots heavy on the wooden floor. Behind him, 2 other officers spread out near the exits like wolves closing in. The bright police lights outside leaked through the bar windows, flashing red and blue across everyone's faces. "You two match the suspects from last week's robbery," Cooper said loudly, making sure the whole bar could hear. "Stand up." The crowd murmured. People started recording. Some whispered. Some smiled. A few shook their heads. "Sir, there must be a mistake," Grace said quietly. Her voice was calm, but her hands trembled under the table. Cooper leaned closer, his tone dripping with mockery. "Oh, I bet there is. Now get on your feet before I drag you out." The humiliation burned hotter than the Texas heat outside. Grace stood slowly, raising her hands. Chloe followed, her heart sinking as she noticed the criminals they'd been tracking. Mark Davis and Henry Scott slip quietly out the back door. "Turn around," Cooper ordered. Grace did. The cold metal of the handcuffs bit into her wrists. Gasps filled the room. Chloe stepped forward in panic. "Wait! We didn't quiet," Cooper barked. "You two been sitting here all night, watching people, whispering. That's what thieves do." The crowd shifted uneasily. Someone muttered. They weren't doing anything wrong. Cooper shot the man a glare. "You want to spend the night in jail too?" The man looked away. No one else spoke. The silence was thick, broken only by the sound of the cuffs locking tight. Chloe's eyes filled with tears she refused to let fall. She looked at her sister, her partner. Her other Hayfand saw the same storm inside her. Grace took a slow breath. Years of FBI training told her not to panic, but nothing in her training had prepared her for this, being treated like a criminal in front of everyone because of her skin. Her cover was burning, her mission collapsing, and the people she swore to bring down were walking free right behind the flashing lights. She could only think one thing: how did it all come to this? And what would happen when the truth finally came out? Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. The cold metal cuffs dug deeper into Grace Miller's wrists as Officer Brian Cooper pulled her forward. The bar's music was still silent, replaced by the uneasy sound of people whispering and recording with their phones. Red and blue lights flashed across the walls, washing over faces filled with judgment and confusion. "Move," Cooper barked, pushing Grace toward the door. Her twin sister, Chloe, took a step forward. "Officer, please. There's been a mistake. Did I say you could talk?" Cooper snapped, turning sharply toward her. His tone was sharp enough to cut glass. Chloe froze, holding her breath. Her heart beat slow and heavy, but her mind was sharp, calculating. She could see Mark Davis, the man they'd spent 3 months tracking, slipping through the side door with his associate, Henry Scott. The very men they came here to catch, gone. Our entire operation gone in a minute, she thought. Inside, Mike Turner, the bartender, lowered his phone from behind the counter. He'd been secretly recording everything. He'd seen enough to know this wasn't right. He glanced at the 2 women, beautiful, calm, and dignified, even under humiliation. Something about them didn't fit the picture of thieves. Outside the bar, the humid Houston night felt like a wall. The air smelled of beer and rain. Cooper shoved Grace toward the patrol car, his grip rough. "Where are you taking her?" Chloe demanded, her voice rising now. "Downtown," Cooper said without looking back. "Both of you are under investigation." "For what?" Chloe asked, trembling with anger. "You'll find out," he muttered, pulling open the car door. Grace turned her head, her voice quiet but firm. "You're making a big mistake, officer." Cooper laughed without humor. "That's what they all say." He pushed her inside and slammed the door. For a moment, the crowd outside stayed frozen. Then someone shouted, "They didn't do anything wrong." Cooper ignored it, waving off the murmurs. But Mike Turner kept filming. Something in his gut told him this video would matter. 6 hours earlier, the Houston sun had barely set when the elevator doors opened inside the FBI field office. Grace Miller adjusted her jacket and looked at her reflection in the metal wall. The woman staring back at her looked confident, but she could feel the weight pressing on her chest. 3 months of undercover work all depending on tonight. Her twin, Chloe, joined her, straightening her hair nervously. "You ready?" Grace nodded slowly. "As I'll ever be." They stepped into briefing room 4A, where Agent Daniel Brown stood in front of a digital screen showing photos of Mark Davis and Henry Scott. Their faces were clear calm, smug, untouchable. "This is it," Daniel said. "Davis will be meeting Scott tonight at Redwood Bar. They're finalizing their money drop. You two are the only ones who can get close enough to record the deal." Chloe frowned. "What about backup?" 3 blocks away, Daniel replied. "But we can't let the Houston PD in on this. We suspect leaks in their department. If Davis even smells the feds, he'll disappear for good." Grace and Chloe exchanged looks. This was risky going in alone, pretending to be ordinary party girls. But they had done harder things before. "We'll handle it," Grace said. Daniel gave a short nod. "Remember, no one knows who you are. Keep your story tight. If anything feels wrong, pull out immediately." They left the office with steady steps, but once they reached the parking garage, Chloe exhaled. "You ever get tired of pretending?" Grace gave a small smile. "Pretending is part of the job, but tonight, it feels different." The drive to Redwood Bar took them through downtown Houston's glowing skyline. Streetlights reflected on the windshield as country music played faintly on the radio. Chloe checked the time. 10 p.m. "He's always there by 9:30 a.m., she said softly. Grace kept her eyes on the road. "Then we'll be ready." They parked 2 blocks away, blending into the crowd of Friday night wanderers. The night smelled of barbecue and beer, laughter spilling from nearby restaurants. To anyone watching, they looked like 2 sisters out to celebrate not 2 agents about to take down a criminal empire. When they walked in, the bar lights were warm and soft, the kind that hid secrets well. The bartender, Mike Turner, greeted them with a polite nod. "The usual?" Chloe smiled. "You remembered." "Hard to forget," he replied. They took a table near the corner, pretending to scroll through their phones, while small cameras hidden in their necklaces started recording. Grace sipped her drink, eyes scanning the room without moving her head. Then he came in. Mark Davistall, polished and dangerous, walked straight to a booth in the corner. 2 men followed. He sat down with that kind of confidence that comes from knowing no one can touch you. "Target confirmed," Chloe whispered. Grace's heart slowed. This was it. The night they'd been waiting for. But across town, in a dark apartment, someone else was waiting too. A man's fingers tapped on his phone screen. "2 black females, early 20s, he said in a calm voice. "Watching customers, whispering, acting suspicious. Looks like robbery suspects." "Location?" a dispatcher asked. Redwood Bar, downtown Houston. He ended the call. A smirk touched his lips. Everything was set. Back inside the bar, Grace and Chloe didn't know the trap had already been sprung. Davis was talking. Every coded word fell into their recording devices proof of his laundering scheme. Everything was working perfectly until the first police car lights flashed outside. Chloe froze. "Grace, do you see that?" Outside, 3 police cars pulled up. Officers stepped out, hands resting on their belts. Grace's stomach dropped. No one called them. "They're not supposed to be here." Before Chloe could respond, the door slammed open. Officer Cooper walked in. His eyes landed right on them. "Well, well," he said, smiling cruelly. "Look what we got here." Officer Brian Cooper's boots thudded against the wooden floor as he stormed into Redwood Bar. The flashing police lights outside bled through the open door, painting everyone's faces red and blue. The room fell silent, except for the faint hum of the air conditioner and the rattle of a loose beer glass. "Everyone stay where you are," Cooper shouted. Heads turned. Phones lifted. The Friday night crowd smelled trouble and they were hungry for it. Grace Miller glanced at her twin sister Chloe, her pulse steady despite the chaos. Every move mattered now. She had to stay calm. Cooper's eyes locked on them. "You too." "Yeah, you." "Stand up." Chloe swallowed hard. "Sir, there must be some mistake." Cooper smirked. "You're sitting here watching people, whispering, drinking slow. You fit the description. Hands on your head." Mark Davis and Henry Scott, their real targets, sat quietly at the far end of the bar. Davis's lips curled into a knowing grin. His plan was working perfectly. Grace rose slowly from her seat, her chair scraping against the floor. "Officer, you don't understand. I said hands up," Cooper barked. His tone was sharp, like he enjoyed every second of it. The other officers spread out, blocking every exit. Chloe stood up too, her eyes moving toward Davis, who was already slipping out the back door. 3 months of hard work, gone in one careless moment. Mike Turner, the bartender, froze behind the counter. He knew these women. They were regulars, polite, calm, nothing like the suspects this cop was describing. Quietly, he reached for his phone and hit record. Grace lifted her hands slowly. "We're not criminals," she said softly. Cooper chuckled. "That's what they all say." He grabbed her wrist, yanked it behind her, and the click of the handcuffs echoed across the bar. The metal bit into her skin. "Officer, please," Chloe shouted, taking a step forward. Cooper turned on her instantly. "Don't make me say it twice." His backup, Officer Jason Red, moved in fast and pointed to her. "Hands where we can see them." Chloe froze, fury and fear tangled inside her chest. "You're arresting the wrong people." "Quiet!" Reed barked. Grace winced as Cooper tightened the cuffs. "This is ridiculous," she said, through clenched teeth. Cooper leaned close, his voice low. "You think dressing up and drinking fancy makes you better than the rest of us?" Not tonight. The words hit her harder than the grip on her arms. The humiliation wasn't just about the arrest, it was about what they looked like. "Outside," Cooper ordered. The officers pushed them through the crowd. Phones followed, filming every second. Some people whispered in anger, others just stared. "They didn't do anything," someone said. "Stay out of police business," Cooper shot back. The night air outside was thick and hot. The red and blue lights flashed against Grace's face as Cooper shoved her toward the patrol car. "This isn't right," Chloe said, her voice trembling. "We haven't done anything wrong." "Then you got nothing to worry about," Cooper said coldly. Grace caught a reflection in the car window, her face pale, her dignity stripped in front of strangers. She glanced back through the bar's doorway and saw Davis watching her from the shadows, his smile widening. That was when she realized this wasn't an accident. Someone had set them up. As Cooper opened the back door of the patrol car, Mike stepped outside. "Officer," he said hesitantly, "I think you've got the wrong women." Cooper turned sharply. "You want to join them?" Mike stepped back quickly, but kept filming. He could feel it in his gut. This video was going to mean something. Grace was pushed inside the car. Chloe followed, hands cuffed, tears forming but never falling. They sat side by side in silence, staring out the window as the officers argued about paperwork. Inside her head, Grace ran through every rule she'd learned in training. Stay calm. Don't reveal your identity unless necessary. Maintain control. But control was slipping fast. "Grace," Chloe whispered. "What do we do now?" Grace looked straight ahead. "We wait." Wait for what? For them to realize who they just arrested. Cooper climbed into the driver's seat and slammed the door. "You girls are real quiet now, huh? That's good. Maybe you'll start talking at the station." He started the engine. Chloe turned to her sister, whispering low so he couldn't hear. "If we don't stop this now, our cover's gone. The whole operation's over." Grace's eyes stayed forward. "It already is." The car began to move. The flashing lights painted the empty street, but neither twin spoke again. They both knew what this meant. Back inside the bar, Mike Turner uploaded his video. The title was simple: "Two Innocent Women Humiliated by Police in Houston Bar." Within minutes, it began to spread. At the FBI field office, Director Linda Harris sat in her office reviewing files when her assistant rushed in. "Director, you need to see this." She turned the screen toward her. There it was, Grace and Chloe, handcuffed, silent, humiliated. The video had already hit thousands of views. Linda's expression hardened. Oh no. Meanwhile, in the back of the patrol car, Grace's phone buzzed in her pocket. She couldn't reach it, but she knew who it was: Agent Daniel Brown, probably trying to warn them that backup had been delayed. The irony cut deep. They were supposed to be the hunters. Now, they were the prey. As they drove through downtown Houston, people turned their heads to watch. Some whispered, others filmed. Grace could feel their eyes judging, assuming, deciding. Chloe leaned her head against the window and whispered, "They'll never believe who we are." Grace closed her eyes. "Then we'll make them." The patrol car stopped at a red light. Cooper glanced in the rearview mirror and smirked. "You too, sure, know how to ruin a good Friday night." Grace looked up slowly, her voice calm but strong. "And you have no idea what kind of night you just started." The car rolled forward into the dark. What none of them knew was that within an hour, the video of this arrest would reach over 500,000 people, and by morning, the entire country would be talking about it. By morning, Houston had turned into a storm. The video from Redwood Bar had spread faster than wildfire. On phones, TV, and news feeds, everyone was watching the same moment: two young black women handcuffed and humiliated by police for something they didn't do. Grace Miller sat on the edge of a metal bench inside an interrogation room at the Houston Police Department. Her wrists were raw from the cuffs. The cold air felt heavier than the silence. Across from her sat Officer Brian Cooper, tapping his pen on the table, pretending to be calm. "You want to tell me what you were doing at that bar?" he asked. Grace kept her tone even. "Having a drink." Cooper snorted. "You were casing the place. Don't lie." Grace leaned back slightly. "Do I look like I need to rob a bar, officer?" That made him pause. just for a moment. Something about her confidence didn't fit the picture he'd built in his mind. But pride wouldn't let him admit it. "I don't know what kind of act you're running," he said, "but it's over now." Grace looked straight at him. "Yes, officer, it is." The door opened before he could reply. A woman in a black suit stepped in. Director Linda Harris of the FBI. Her eyes were cold and sharp. "Officer Cooper," she said flatly, "release my agents." Cooper's mouth fell open. Your what?" "Special Agents Grace and Chloe Miller," she said, showing her badge. "They were working an undercover operation authorized by the FBI. You just handcuffed federal agents during a live mission." The room froze. Chloe, sitting at the next table, looked up in relief as another officer hurried to unlock her cuffs. Grace rubbed her sore wrists, the steel marks still visible. Cooper's face turned red. "There must be some mistake." "There's no mistake," Director Harris cut in. "But there will be consequences." She turned to Grace. "You both all right?" Grace nodded slowly. "Physically, yes. Professionally," she exhaled. "The case is gone." Davis and Scott slipped out the back. Harris pressed her lips together. "We'll deal with that later. For now, I want you both back at the field office." As they walked past the officers, the whole station stared. Some whispered, others looked away. Chloe kept her head high, but her jaw was tight with anger. 2 hours later, inside the FBI Houston field office, the briefing room was packed. Screens showed the viral video on repeat, millions of views, thousands of comments, and reporters waiting outside the building. Director Agent Daniel Brown said, "It's everywhere. Hashtags are trending. Hashtag FBI agents. Hashtag justice for the twins. Hashtag Houston incident. We've got protests outside City Hall already." Linda Harris rubbed her forehead. "The public knows faster than the truth can catch up." Grace stood near the window, looking out at the city below. "That wasn't random," she said quietly. "Someone knew exactly where we were. They wanted to blow our cover." Chloe nodded. "The 911 caller. Whoever it was had detailed descriptions, our clothes, our drinks, everything. That's not coincidence." Daniel turned to the tech board. "We're already tracing the call. It came from a burner phone. We'll need cyber to backtrack it." Chloe stepped forward. "I'll handle that." Grace gave her a quick nod. The sisters had worked together long enough to understand each other without words. As the agents left to start tracing the call, Linda Harris pulled Grace aside. "Listen," she said softly. "You two did everything right. Don't let this mess break your spirit." Grace smiled faintly. "It's not the humiliation that hurts, ma'am. It's knowing that someone used prejudice as a weapon." Harris met her gaze. "Then find out who." That night, Grace and Chloe sat in their apartment at Pinewood Apartments, laptops open, screens glowing in the dim light. They'd run facial recognition, phone logs, and surveillance matches. The results painted a disturbing picture. The same burner number had been used 17 times in the past 6 months to report suspicious black men or women in upscale areas around Texas. None of those cases led to real arrests. 17 calls, Chloe said quietly. Always to different police stations. Always against professionals, lawyers, doctors, teachers. Grace stared at the map. Whoever's doing this isn't random. It's a pattern. Her phone buzzed. It was a message from Daniel Brown. And GT knew intel. Davis funded multiple security firms. Money trail links to burner phone purchases. Someone's orchestrating this. Chloe's eyes widened. Davis. He's not just laundering money. He's protecting himself using police. Grace sat back slowly. He's using racism as a shield. Silence filled the room. The truth was heavy, but it explained everything. Every false tip, every distraction, every anonymous call. Chloe closed her laptop. "We can't let this stay buried," Grace nodded. "Then we dig." The next morning, the FBI office buzzed like a hive. Dozens of agents worked phones, computers, and reports. Screens filled with data transactions, phone records, surveillance photos. Grace presented her findings to the room. The evidence suggests that Davis's network has been paying people to make false police calls. They describe innocent black professionals as suspects. That draws police attention, ruins investigations, and protects their real operations. Daniel frowned. "So they're weaponizing the system itself." "Exactly," Chloe said. "And last night was just one of many." As she spoke, Linda Harris stepped into the room. "Then it's time the world knows. But we'll need hard proof." Grace glanced at her sister. "We already started collecting it." Harris nodded. "Good. But watch your backs. If Davis knows we're on to him, he'll fight dirty." Later that evening, Grace returned home to find a black envelope slipped under her door. No address, no sender. Just her name. She opened it carefully. Inside was a single photo of her, and Chloe leaving the FBI office earlier that day. Written in red ink at the bottom were the words, "Stop digging, or we'll finish what the police started." Grace's hand tightened around the photo. When Chloe came out of her room, she saw the look on her sister's face. "What's wrong?" Grace handed her the picture. "They're watching us." Chloe looked at it for a long moment. Then she whispered, "Then they just made their biggest mistake." The two sisters stood in silence as the city lights flickered outside their window. They knew this was no longer just about their careers, it was about survival. Somewhere out there, someone was pulling strings, using the system to destroy people who looked like them. And now, the twins were going to pull back the curtain. Dear viewers, what a night this has been for Grace and Chloe Miller. Two sisters, two undercover FBI agents, dragged into humiliation for a crime they never committed. What started as a quiet mission in a Houston bar has now turned into a dangerous game one that reaches far beyond what they can see. They've just learned that someone powerful is watching them, and this time, it's personal. Before we go, don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe so you don't miss part 2, because what's coming next will shock you even more. And make sure to comment part 2 below if you're ready to see how this story unfolds. Your support means everything. Dear viewers, stay tuned, the truth is just getting started.